Hi everyone, this is Monica from Studio 550 Art Center in Manchester, New Hampshire. Thank you so much for taking a mosaic kit home with you. Today we'll go over the basic steps of how to create your piece. You can keep these as coasters or you can epoxy a D-hook to the back of it and then hang it on your wall as a little decoration. Here's an example of what we'll be making today. If you prefer written step-by-step instructions, go to this website and you can scroll down and find a PDF of what we'll be making today. So let's begin. In your kit, you'll have glass, and notice that these have soft edges. It was really important to us to make this project available to all ages, so we wanted to make sure that we ground down the edges so that they were not going to cut. It is possible that something may have chipped in shipping, so just be sure that you check it, but everything should be fairly smooth. So you'll have glass, a sponge for wiping off grout, Elmer's glue, grout, a coaster, or a backing for whatever piece you're going to make. And then if you want to turn your piece into a coaster, we have included some cork backing that sticks on. One of the first things you'll want to do is take a look at your piece of wood. One side will probably look a little cleaner. Maybe the wood grain is a little bit more tidy. Maybe the edges are a little bit cleaner. So take a look and see which side you enjoy more, and then put that face down. Because we're going to build the mosaic on top of the dirtier side. The reason why is because the glass will cover up that side and then the grout will fill in all the other spaces, so you won't see it. So find the prettier side, face it down. Here are some things to keep in mind as you start to arrange the glass on your piece. Ideally, you'll walk out of this with a piece that is filled with beautiful glass with some little bits of grout around it, instead of a field of grout with a couple pieces of glass. So fill the backing with as much glass as you can before you settle on a final arrangement. It might help to start placing the larger pieces of glass that you like first and then filling in the gaps with small pieces, but we'll go over some other options for that later. Also, try to leave a 1/8 of an inch gap around the edges. This helps you prevent glass from falling off the piece, but also it gives you a little frame. Feel free to swipe off whatever you put on there and play with a couple different arrangements before you finally settle. And then last, have fun with it. So here is a time lapse of me putting my piece together. The actual process took probably 15 to 20 minutes, and I tried probably 4 or 5 different arrangements of glass before I finally found one that I enjoyed. So it's kind of like putting together a puzzle where there really isn't a right or wrong finished piece. It just depends on what you like. So you can try to line up all the straight pieces that you find. You can try putting the big pieces down and then filling in the gaps with small ones. You can try to put the big ones all on one edge and then work your way to medium, then smaller pieces on the other edge. You could even try for a gradient of colors. You can go random. It's totally up to you. Just remember to make an arrangement that you like before you start to glue things down. You might find that the difference between a piece fitting and not is just flipping it upside down or flipping it 180 and then all of a sudden, boom, it fits wonderfully. So play with your pieces and see what happens. Feel free to pause here and create your piece. You can pick up with the next section when you're ready. The next step will be gluing all of your glass pieces down. So to avoid getting glue everywhere, I usually take the tip of my pinky, dip it in the glue, and then spread it onto the piece. You want to coat the entire back. Don't worry about bumping some pieces out of the way because you'll have a few seconds to kind of slide the pieces of glass around. And if you get a little bit of glue on the top of the glass, that's okay too, because the last step will be cleaning off the top surface with a damp sponge. So you'll be able to clean any excess glue later. So go ahead and glue everything down. Slide things around wherever you need to. Get things exactly where you want. Remember, you want a little bit of a gap around the edges, and you want a little bit of a gap between your pieces. Once they are all glued, give it one more final pass and then let it dry. It might take a couple minutes, but you want to check, make sure all the pieces are not wiggling before you apply the grout. If anything feels loose, take it off, add some more glue, and then let that dry. We will be using a single component grout to fill in the gaps. This means that it doesn't need to be sealed after it's dried. If you're working on a precious surface, please put down some newspaper. Even though the grout doesn't dry too quickly, when it does dry, it is hard. You can use gloves or a grout float if you'd like, but I just use my finger. A single finger is fine. This way I can be sure I can press the grout into all the gaps between the glass and get all the edges really well. Sometimes it helps to pick up the piece in order to get the edges at a better angle. You'll want to do this step fairly quickly so it doesn't dry out. Once you're done, go wash your hands and get a bowl of water while you're at the sink. Cover up your grout so that it doesn't dry out. Maybe you can use this for another project with the leftover mosaic pieces. And then you take your sponge, dip it in the water, get it damp. Do not put a slopping wet sponge onto your piece. It will take off too much grout. So squeeze it out and then just gently run it over the surface, and that will start to reveal the glass and the color. At first, do a couple rough, loose passes. You're not trying to take all of it out all at once, but do a pass, squish out your sponge, do a pass, rinse out your sponge, do another pass, maybe just one square inch at a time, and then squish out your sponge again. So it will take a number of passes. Make sure you have enough clean water to rinse out your sponge, and progressively you'll be able to take more and more off. When you get closer to the finishing steps of wiping off the grout, you'll find that you'll just get a little bit of a haze left. Do one wipe, one small 1-inch wipe, rinse out your sponge, another 1-inch wipe, rinse out your sponge, and then eventually you'll be able to get it very clean. So don't forget to wipe off those edges too. So pick up your piece and then wipe up the edges. Once the grout has a chance to dry, then you can take some Windex or or a clean bowl of water and do another final pass. If you use the sponge that was too wet, or if you press too hard with the sponge, then you'll have a deep groove where the grout is. You want to be sure that it is fairly level, but the glass should be a little bit more raised above the grout. Finally, after everything is dry, you can take off the sticker backings for the cork and then add it to the back. You're done. Enjoy your piece. Thank you so much for creating with us. If you'd like to try another Take and Make kit with Studio 550, these other ones are available. Just go to this website and place your order there. Have a good day.